We are reviewing the MÅLA from Ikea. This is a new addition to the craft room. I've just put this together. I'll show some clips of it in a second. It's very easy to put together. I've done it in 10 minutes. It would have been even quicker if I had an electric screwdriver instead of a manual one. So it's not a tricky build for Ikea standards. I bought this with my own money. I paid this much money for it. I bought it actually in shop, so it didn't get any cost for delivery or anything. So all opinions on my own. I was looking for one of these for the craft room for a number of projects so I can improve my videos to put more physical graphics in there that I create on camera, and for other crafting projects. It came with the MÅLA paper. So these are 30-meter rolls. Yeah, 30-meter rolls. These were very affordable. I'm going to test the paper quality in a minute. These were, I think, £3.50. I'll double check and put it on the screen, for 30 meters. So that's plenty of paper for your crafting, or they're not expensive. So you think, oh, this bit of drawing is costing me this much. As they're very cheap that way. It would be great for kids so they can do a doodle and then start again if they want to. The rolls are coated in this sort of plastic, so shrink wrap. Let's get into this. So they just come out of the plastic, and then they have a couple of sticky labels which are actually on the paper instead of the plastic. Don't think I can peel off without damaging the paper. Let's have a quick check. Can I get these off without damaging the paper? No, I can't. So you will lose a little bit of paper where the labels are at the start. Let's mount it in its holder. So to mount it, you remove the bar, like a toilet roll holder, put the bar through the piece of paper roll, and then mount it. And then it just feeds underneath this red bar here, and then out. I'm going to have a question I had was, how white is it? It is an off-white, so I'd say the manual it came with is like printer paper white. So I'll get a shot of it in a second, but you can see on this camera here that it's a yellow white, so it's an off-white. One thing to note is it doesn't have a cardboard core. So like some paper rolls where there's a cardboard tube inside and all the paper's rolled onto it, like a toilet roll, this doesn't. So I think when you run out, it just runs out to nothing. So let's open up this box. Let's see how tricky it is to build. Inside the box we have instructions, cardboard, and the kit. It's made out of ply like everything else, but it feels like proper wood rather than that cardboard wood alternative that IKEA has. Let's get everything out. Okay, that's it for this box. Move you over there out of frame. Okay, let's just lay out the parts. It looks like it goes together with dowels and screws. So bear with me 1 second while I check the manual. Looks like I need a screwdriver. So the dowels go together and then you screw it after that. Okay, let's open up the packet of dowels. they go in the end of the long sections. So the end of each section is some holes, and the dowels just push in to the end of those. They're a little stiff to get in. Oh, if I need to compress them more, I will. And the long, this is flat, no dowels. This one, has this got dowels? Yes, two more in the long piece. I have one spare dowel, so I assume that one spare looks like in the manual. So then you take this piece and that way up. This goes at the bottom. Like so. These go at the top. With the groove, looks like at the bottom. Oh, I didn't push this dowel in anywhere near far enough, but just compressing the whole thing pushes it in. So I'll do the other side while I'm here. Before I compress it fully in, I'm going to put the other one in the front, and then it looks like, if I'm guessing correctly, I need to slide in this, yes. So you need to slide in this piece before you can put the screws in, because it sits in the groove. So it's always good to read all of the instructions before putting any screws in something, because then you can't easily take it apart. So that's what it would look like. Let's just check to see that goes in there. Give me 1 second while I screw it all together. 4 screws on each side into pre-drilled holes. So if you have an electric screwdriver, this will take no time at all, but because I'm running a manual one in the studio, that's what I'm going to be using. So I've just turned it round. There's 4 screws on each side, so it's not tricky to put together. On the scale of how tricky it is to put something together from Ikea, this is very easy. You only need a crosshead screwdriver, which is a standard bit, no silly Allen keys or special parts. And you could do it on your own. It'd be a lot quicker if I had an electric screwdriver, but I don't have one of those in the studio at the minute. So I'm just going to use a manual one. One thing to note is that they give you 1 extra dowel. So Ikea is known for having exactly the number of parts you want and then adding a couple of spares. So that throws you, there's the right amount of screws and just 1 extra dowel. I didn't have any problems putting the dowels in, none of them broke, none of them were forced. But it's good that there's 1 extra, and just to know when you finish building it, you're going to be left with 1. Now a key question I had, put that in the top there, was how well does it tear? So it comes with a bar on the front here that's designed so you push down on it and you can tear it off. So you can do some doodles or some notes or stuff and then tear the sheet off. So I'm going to try that. Not great. So as you can see, it's split in a couple of places when my fans gets too far away from the ripping edge. So at the point where it contacts, it seems to split and tear. The tear cut itself is not great. It's jaggedy, it's not a straight line. How good is the paper for different types of things? So I smooth this out the way so I have a flat surface. So how is the paper quality for different pens, pencils? So I'm going to do a variety of tests now. I'll timestamp for each different type in the description, so you'll be able to jump forward to see what you're looking for. So if you bear with me, I'm going to stop and then grab all my utensils and then see what works. Okay, let's start with, of course, the basics. This is a Ikea pencil. If you've gone to Ikea and picked one of these up and not picked up one of the free pencils, then you've done Ikea shopping wrong. So let's see that. It's relatively thick paper. Actually, I'm on quite a rough surface underneath. So I've now got some Derwent pencils. So let's go for quite a hard pencil. Yeah, that feels nice. And it's taking the pencil well. It's not a rough surface. How does it erase? Let's have a look. So I've got a standard eraser. The paper holds up relatively well. Let's try a more aggressive eraser. So this is a cheap pencil sharpener eraser thing. So this will be more aggressive on the paper. Yes. No, that seems to be handling fine. There's no tearing or thinning. How about coloured pencils? So again, we have some of these. So you can see my uneven craft mat underneath. But the paper itself seems to be handling it fine. The colours are going on nicely. So if I now turn it over, nothing has come through. It's completely stopped all of those, but I wasn't expecting it to come through, honestly, with what they are. So let's up the ante. So we have a Sharpie next. This is a Sharpie brand Sharpie fine point. Quite an old pen. We got a no brand permanent marker. So this is a knockoff Sharpie. Again, quite old. And we have a Pigma micron. So this is a nice archival pen, very fine. So I don't know why it's in this set, but okay. Again. So the Sharpie has come through. So I can see the Sharpie starting to bleed through on the harder dots. The paper's stopped the light brush, so if you're just taking notes in a presentation on it or something like that, it seems to have stopped it. But where you've gone over your lines and coloured in stuff, it seems to be bleeding through the paper. The archival pen, it hasn't bled through at all. So let's find something even harder for it. So I've got a box of crayons. So these are just standard crayons. Let's see. Yeah, it seems to be going on well. So I'm being really quite aggressive on the paper here. Completely stop the crayons coming through, and paper doesn't appear to be beading up at all or breaking down. I think that's the end of the dry medium, so let's grab a standard biro. So these are standard office Bic Biros, which are nearly dead. Been in my kit for a long time. Well, that one is dead. Oh no. Oh, that's very aggressive. So that's starting to tear through. You can see where I'm really pressing hard with the biro, we're starting to get it to tear. Okay, let's up the ante again. So let's have a new piece of paper. One of the key features is the tearing surface. I'll have to look at improving that because this isn't doing very well at it. So again, a relatively poor tear. Next up we have, these are Stabilo Point 0.88 ones. So they produce a lovely line on it. No bleed through at all. Okay, we really are stepping up now. So we now have a whiteboard marker. I know these aren't for paper, but people use them all the time for paper in offices. So I've got 2 of these. No bleed, well, you can see it through the paper, but it hasn't bled through. And what's meant to be designed for this paper is flip chart markers. So we'll see how they do. Nope, same as the whiteboard markers, maybe a little thicker, but no bleed through. Okay, we're really stepping up now, and we're on to paint markers. So these are Posca paint markers. They are the large ones, the PC8K ones. So if I grab the black one of that. So these are the black chisel bit. So you can see how they're wet, they're drying very quickly. Oh, that's good, it hasn't bled through. I really thought this one we would struggle with. So we'll go over the lines again to see if we can get it to bleed through. So I've gone over each line 3 times and still no bleed through. That's very good. It's not the thinnest paper, so it's doing quite well. There's no roughness in those. I presume there will be on this, but it's still wet, so I'm not going to touch that yet. Okay, I'm going to have to step it up again. 1 second. Faber Castell's, these are the PITT Artist Pen series. So let's pick a dark blue for us. So these are the brush tip ones. Again, no bleed through. Next up is the Molotow markers. So these are again paint markers. I think these are acrylic paint markers. These have been in my collection for a while and I haven't used them, so I don't know if they're going to have any life in them. So these are all-in-one acrylic markers, so these are paint. Again, no bleed through. Turns out I've got a lot of craft supplies in this craft room. We have Copic. So these are the Copic Casio. These are the very common Copic pens. Yep, there, going on there nicely. Again, no bleed through. This is a Uniball eye pen. These are nice ones, but they're very wet pens. That goes on there nicely. Still no bleed through. It's starting to get there, so you have to really go at it to get it to bleed through. You can see where the line are in making indentation, but it's still not bleeding through. I think we're getting there. So that's exhausted my collection of pen types. So let's see how it does with paint. So this is Winsor Newton, Galeria, Acrylic. It's absorbing it very quickly. So if you were painting on here with acrylics, it will dry very quickly. So you don't get a lot of work time. So you may want to be careful with that. Otherwise you paint something and then before you can move it into the right place, it's already dry. So yeah, very quick to dry. But the substrate, the paper is doing well. So I'll put it on really thick there. So let's turn it over, and still no bleed through. So far it's stood up to absolutely everything I've thrown at it. You can start to see the paper is warped where the wet paint is. So if you did paint on it with paint, it will probably warp and shrink as the paint dries. So you end up with a ripply painting. So it's probably not good for anything professional use. But for kids to paint on, or just to dab your brush on to do a quick sketch, then I think it's more than adequate considering how much it was for the price of the paper. So let me just wipe my brush out on the paper. See, this is already dry. Yeah, it's already dry, so it dries incredibly quickly. So I'll wash the brush out in a minute. I don't think I have anything else to throw at it, so I think it's managed to hold up against everything. So in terms of paper quality, I'm quite pleased with it. It's quite a robust paper. It holds up well to pencils, pens, crayons, acrylic. I haven't got any oil paints in the studio, so I can't test it on that. Problem is it doesn't rip nicely down the side. So let's try with a scalpel, see how it handles that. This is a Fiskars, I'll put it in the description. Scalpel holder and scalpel. Underneath I'm running a cutting mat. Yeah, so it cuts nicely. With a standard scalpel, you get a nice cut. So the paper's leaving a nice edge. This is a relatively new blade, so not tearing. This could be the solution to the cutting, but this is a plastic edge. So this bit here is made out of plastic. If it's made out of metal, I wouldn't have any qualms about running a knife down this, but I feel if I run it down with the scalpel, with a X-Acto blade, it will start cutting into the plastic. So the device itself is about 45 centimeters wide in terms of paper use, and about 50 centimeters wide for the whole unit itself. It's well built. It's standard Ikea style, where it's made out of ply that's put together. It looks like it's made out of wood entirely. Some of the stuff from Ikea, they've hidden cardboard inside and called it wood. Well, I haven't called it wood, but it looks like wood. It's paper. I'm very pleased with the quality of the paper. I think the paper that you buy with it is very good for the value it is, considering I think I paid $3.50 for 30 meters. So that's what, how much per meter? So that's 11 pence per metre of paper. So I think that's very good value for the quality of paper it is. Unfortunately, it's let down by the tear off mechanism. You would probably need, if you wanted a straight edge, to cut it along this edge. So you could either do that with scissors or an X-Acto blade, or maybe even a rolling cutter. But the tearing mechanism itself doesn't work very well. The paper is more likely to tear in the opposite direction to the direction you want. It doesn't tear nicely, and when it does tear, it leaves quite a ragged edge. In principle, if you had a linear cutter and a guillotine or something, you could mount this in line, so you have the paper, you have the guillotine, and then you have whatever you're working on. So then you could have a nicer cutter. I just use this as a paper control to keep it flat. Let me just tear this off because it's annoying me that it's torn badly. Do I think it's worth the money? Yes, it's good if you can get it for the price I did directly from the shop. Probably adding on delivery, it might be a bit much, but I think it's a good product.